Good afternoon, sir. It's a pleasure to have you here with us. So could you explain to us who you actually are and what you do for the nation?
So my name is Gautam Banerjee. I now work with Blackstone, which is a US investment company. But apart from Blackstone, I also sit on a few boards, some commercial company boards, and also on some non-for-profit company boards. So, for example, I chair the Singapore Center for Social Enterprise. I sit on the board of Yale NUS. I'm a pro-chancellor of NUS because after I spent 30 years in Pricewaterhouse, so I'm a chartered accountant by training, went to university and then became a chartered accountant. And I worked in PwC, Pricewaterhouse, and then PricewaterhouseCoopers for 30 years. And after I finished with Pricewaterhouse, I a complete change in career and became the first chair of Blackstone in Singapore. Blackstone is an investment company. And at that stage, I said that I would spend 30 to 40% of my time on not-for-profit. So that's why I also am a trustee of SINDA, which is the Singapore India Development Association. And as I get older, I find that spending more time helping others and sharing some of my knowledge and my journey is very fulfilling.
Why sudden change in your career out of all?
So Pricewaterhouse has a retirement age at 58, so so it's a hard stop at 58, and so when you have a hard stop, you can. It's a good time for you to rethink what you want to do. So in a way, it's a second wind.
What do you look for in a startup? What do one of us need to show you for you to invest in us?
So whether it's a startup or any other business, you need to look at the business model. What is it that you will be doing which is different from companies that are already around? What is your unique sort of service proposition, USP? Does that make sense? I mean, will you be able to, will people buy your products or services? Why will they buy your products or services? Will you be competitive? So these are the issues that one looks at. And I think what investment professionals need to do is they need to price risk. They need to price risk across business models, across markets, and across geographies. That's what people, if you look at the private equity firms, you look at bankers, that's what they're doing. They're pricing risk.
So what you say is the most important factor? Like you've stated quite a few.
Most critical factor.
Yeah.
You give money to someone and the guy, that money just disappears because what he produces no one buys or is not competitive or doesn't have a market.
My question is, what solutions do you provide to startups and SMEs to compete with big conglomerates and large corporations?
Well, I think if you're a startup, you should not be thinking of competing with a big conglomerate. You are in a different space. So presumably you're coming up with something which is different, which is filling a gap. So you need to then start collaborations because you can't do it all on your own. So partnerships, collaborations, the ability to work with different players in the ecosystem becomes very important.
Well, sir, my question to you is, what makes some private equity firms better than others, and what do they do differently in order to achieve this?
Well, private equity firms have two things that they need to do. One is they have to convince what we call limited partners to give them money. Because we need funds from usually people who have a slightly medium to longer term perspective or outlook. So these would be pension funds, university endowments, so you have to convince them to give you money. So you need to present yourself and your plan better than your competitors, and then you must be able to put that money to work. And usually, if you're a first-time fund, it's always difficult because a lot of LPs, they have rules. They don't invest in first-time funds. So sometimes, often, the private equity firms start off with their own. A few group come together with their own money, friends and family, and then once they have a track record, then they're able to convince others to come in.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.